So it looks like it might actually be possible that the Sony Spider-Verse is done. Could Sony have finally figured out that their Spider-Man adjacent universe that doesn't actually involve Spider-Man, just Spider-Man characters, isn't working? It simply doesn't work without Spider-Man. But could they have also realized that Marvel Studios does Spider-Man better than they do? It looks like that might actually be the case, and we are looking at the end of the SPUMC, the SSU, whatever you want to call it, the Sony universe of Spider-Man could be coming to an end. And the way that they might be planning on doing that is actually quite brilliant. And really what it is simply a fusion into the MCU. The Sony universe and the MCU might actually become one and the same. And the Sony universe could basically be grabbed and wrapped into the MCU. This is essentially what they have done with the X-Men universes with Deadpool and Wolverine. All of those universes are now canon. All of the X-Men universes, they are in the MCU. They are in the MCU's multiverse. They're not in the same universe as our main one, the 616 Sacred Timeline, but they are a part of the multiverse, making them a part of the MCU. But the questions are, why is this happening and why now? Well, what's interesting about this is that Marvel and Sony have recently been meeting up to talk about Spider-Man. We know this from a couple of different insiders like My Time to Shine Hello and Daniel RBK. And My Time to Shine Hello even states that we're getting 2 more additional Spider-Man films than what was previously planned. If that report ends up being true, then Sony is giving Marvel Studios more Spider-Man, which we love to hear. And we've also heard that Spider-Man is going to pretty much be kind of the face of the MCU moving forward, at least one of the main faces, and not just in the Multiverse saga, not just leading up to Doomsday and Secret Wars, but even after Secret Wars, where we get the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and everybody basically in the same universe. And it sounds like in that same universe, Venom is going to be a part of it, as well as other Spider-Man villains that Sony has the rights to that they might let Marvel use. And the reason being for that is what I mentioned in the beginning. The Sony Spider-Man universe might be destroyed and done for good, at least for now. And I gotta say, if this actually happens, good for you, Sony. Clearly what they have been trying to do hasn't really worked. The only thing that was really successful was Venom. And even most people think, yes, they are fun movies, they are good movies, but they're not the most fantastic movies in the world. They're a great time, I really enjoy watching them, but they could be better. And of course, we want Spider-Man and Venom together, which is what we could be getting for Spider-Man 4. Because it seems like some pretty big negotiations are taking place right now, or have just recently taken place, for what Spider-Man 4 is going to be. I know a lot of people have been following, but if you haven't, Sony wants Spider-Man 4 to be a big multiversal film, and Marvel Studios wanted it to be kind of grounded. However, given the fact that Spider-Man 4 is most likely going to take place after Avengers Doomsday, it kind of just makes sense continuity-wise for the entire MCU right now for it to be a multiverse story. There are some rumors going around right now, and they are just rumors. This is not confirmed yet. Just want to be clear on that, but there are some insiders who can kind of back this up a little bit, but we'll get to that in a bit. But the rumors and the rumblings that we've been hearing recently are that the last Venom film, The Last Dance, is indeed going to be the last Venom film, but it's also probably going to be the last film of the Sony Spider-Man universe. In a way, don't get me wrong, I believe Kraven the Hunter is still coming out after it, but after that movie, that should be it. But Venom should lead to the destruction of the Sony Spider-Man universe, and the way that they're going to do this will tie into the MCU in a really big way, and it will really tie into the multiverse saga relatively smoothly. In fact, I think if this happens, it's actually an incredible idea. And here's the idea. We know that Null, the symbiote creator, the symbiote god, the entity that has literally killed Celestials before, is going to be the main villain of Venom 3, The Last Dance. And with that, a lot of people have been stating that they don't really see how Venom and Eddie are going to be able to take on Null. He should, in theory, be way more powerful than them. And this is where it gets really interesting. Some insiders, like Alex Perez from thecosmiccircus.com, have stated that Null and Venom are actually going to make their way to the MCU after this movie, with the end of this movie setting it up. Then in Spider-Man 4, Venom and Spider-Man are going to fight together to fight against Null. Now that sounds pretty cool right away, Venom and Spider-Man fighting together, and that's originally all we heard, but now we are hearing a little bit more, that at the end of Venom 3, Null will actually destroy the entire Spider-Man universe and actually cause an incursion, and the Sony Spider-Man universe will go away, effectively making it a part of the multiverse story, and perhaps in Secret Wars, some remnants of the Spider-Man universe will be left over and become a part of Battleworld. That is essentially what is going to happen at the end of Venom: The Last Dance. Some remnants, aka Venom and Null, of that universe will end up in the MCU. And this has a lot of people thinking that this could be finally the merger between Sony and Marvel Studios, the merger between the SSU and the MCU. And Null could be the catalyst for that change, as he has abilities to travel and influence multiple universes throughout the multiverse. And what's really interesting is that there is a way, a specific way, and a specific reason why Tom Hardy's Venom would actually flee to the MCU. And this does kind of make the post-credit scenes that we've seen for Venom: Let There Be Carnage and Spider-Man: No Way Home make a little more sense. In the post-credit scene for Venom: Let There Be Carnage, Eddie Brock and Venom found themselves in the MCU. Then in Spider-Man: No Way Home, they kind of slapped us in the face and returned them to the Sony Spider-Man universe, but left a remnant of the symbiote behind. And now some speculation is that the hive connection that all the symbiotes share could be how Venom and Eddie end up going specifically to the MCU, because they will share that hive connection with a piece of that Venom symbiote that was left in the MCU. If that is the plan, that is a pretty good plan. I will give them that. And this seems to be the work of both Marvel and Sony if this does actually happen. It works on a lot of different fronts. For example, Null destroying the Sony Spider-Man universe and essentially becoming a multiversal threat works for the MCU as well, since that's what we're going to be dealing with. Big multiversal threats. And we already know that in the multiverse saga, there are going to be more than just one threat. For example, of course, we know Doctor Doom is going to be a threat to the multiverse, but at the same time, we know incursions are huge threats to the multiverse as well. And then if they go down the route of the Beyonders trying to destroy the multiverse as well, that is a whole other threat. And maybe, just maybe, they might kind of mention Kang and close off his story. So adding Null as another multiversal threat makes sense for the MCU currently right now. Continuity-wise, it works. And this is actually a really cool way of bringing the Sony Spider-Man universe into the MCU, but kind of the Earth of that universe being destroyed. However, it accomplishes what fans have really been wanting for forever now, and that is Marvel Studios controlling the characters that Sony owns. Yes, they can do this and Sony can still own the characters, but Sony can still make a lot of money with these characters appearing in the MCU. You've probably heard me mention that a lot, but I do believe that is the solution to everyone's problem. Marvel simply gets the rights to use these characters in the MCU. They don't own the characters, they simply get the rights from Sony to use them, just like they're doing with Spider-Man in the MCU right now. Sony still owns the rights to Spider-Man, but they worked out a deal to use him in the MCU. This is essentially what we could be looking at, but for every character, every Spider-Man character that Sony owns. We could be looking at some amazing future Spider-Man stories, all done by Marvel Studios. And what could have happened is when Sony and Marvel were meeting, Kevin Feige might have again said, hey, your Spider-Man stuff, it's not working. You need to let us do it. If you don't know that original story, Amy Pascal called Kevin Feige and asked him for help when they were trying to make The Amazing Spider-Man 3, which was again supposed to be Andrew Garfield. But Kevin Feige came into the meeting and he said, it's not going to work. You need to let me do it. You need to let Spider-Man be a part of the MCU. And at first, Amy Pascal, who was friends with Kevin Feige, who had worked with him for a while, was super mad. She asked him to leave, but she thought about it a lot. Eventually, they met up again and she agreed. That's what needs to happen. And if these rumors are even partially true, then I want to assume that that is something that has recently happened again. We know that Sony has been meeting with Marvel a lot about Spider-Man 4. I really would not be surprised if Kevin Feige at some point in time in all of these meetings said, hey, you know what? We need Venom. We need Null. We need all of the Spider-Man characters. Let us do it. Let's do the same thing that we do with Spider-Man. License us the characters, you keep the rights, but we can use them in the MCU. You make money, we make money, but we do the stories better, so everybody wins. Sony wins, Marvel wins, the fans win. And hopefully, that's what we're looking at here. And I would love that. And I really hope if that is presented to Sony, that is something they deeply consider. And if these rumors are even remotely true, sounds like that's what they might do. And I do think Null destroying the Sony universe would be kind of epic. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay up to date on Spider-Man, the Sony universe of Marvel characters, whatever you want to call it, and of course, the MCU. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.